How's it going, YouTube? James here from eSports Hero, and today I'm excited to do this guide on Arthas, my favorite hero, one of the most slept-on heroes, not necessarily in the competitive scene, but on a day-to-day basis in Hero League and pub games and quick match. This guy is a monster. He's very often built incorrectly, in my opinion, and I'm going to show you my build, some of the nuances of his play, and hopefully it can help you guys out. So currently sitting at around rank 14 in Hero League. Haven't had that much time to play, but I've had massive success with Arthas, and he's been my highest win rate hero. He's sitting at around a 70 to 75% win rate in Hero League. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get started and break down his kit first and foremost. So here we are in the try mode, so I'm not letting my teammates down, don't worry. His Q is Death Coil. It's a little nuke, or it can heal yourself. It's on a 9-second cooldown, costs 50 mana at level 1. It's good to note that it heals more than it does damage. It's your biggest nuke in terms of an instant damage spell, sort of, other than his trait, obviously, which we'll get into. But early game, it's somewhat underwhelming. I usually use this just to get better value of it, just to sustain yourself and to use it on yourself and to do more damage with your E and trait. But that's his Q. His W is Howling Blast. It's an area of effect spell. Ice travels along a path to a destination, and people at that destination get rooted. They don't get stunned, so they can still interact with your hero, but they get rooted, so they can't move, and that allows you to get a good positional advantage on them and get your E going on them. Also does a moderate sum of damage, sum of damage. His E is Frozen Tempest. Look how badass this looks. I mean, just look at this guy in general, guys. This guy just looks incredible. Like, who wouldn't want to play this warrior tank? So Frozen Tempest does actually a very considerable amount of damage, and people sleep on this spell in that sense. So if you look at his W, which deals 36 damage, and it's kind of a targeted area of effect spell, his E does 30 per second. It costs a lot of mana, so he's 500 mana to start with, and it's 15 per second, so it does add up. You don't want to just have this going constantly, but this spell is very, very strong, and the slow stacks up to 30%. 30% is a lot. So if you can stack this up to 30% and making sure that you're attacking between animations, moving, attack, move, attack, move, attack, and you keep this up, nobody's getting away from you unless they have a massive cooldown. So I'm just gonna go ahead and level up here so I can show you his ultimate, and then we'll get into what I chose after. So his first heroic is Army of the Dead. You raise a bunch of ghouls for you that do great damage. Another thing people don't realize, they do very good damage, but they only last 15 seconds. So you have to weave in the damage from the ghouls with its ability. And the ability is you can click your ult again, and each time you click it, you'll sacrifice a ghoul to heal you for a sizable amount of health. So this takes Arthas to the next level with soaking damage. He can be an absolute beast in the team fights and very hard to kill if you use his entire kit properly. And you know not when to use things for damage, when to use it on yourself, when to run away, how to position yourself. So I choose Army of the Dead 95% of the time. His second heroic ability is Summon Sindragosa. You summon a giant dragon that has a massive range. It deals modest damage, I'd say. Like, it's not that great, moderate damage. And it freezes minions and heroes and stuff, but it doesn't really fit with his role normally on the battlefield. So 90% of the time, pick Army of the Dead. It does like the same damage, if not better anyway. So that brings me to his last part of his kit, which is Frostmourne Hungers. His trait is so essential to his rotation. It's almost like more essential than his other abilities at times, and that's something that people mess up when they play Arthas on. They forget about his trait, and they don't bind it to a good key where it's readily available. This does a ton of damage, and it allows you to effectively have permanent sustain if you build them properly. What it does, it's an activatable ability that makes your awesome sword here glow blue, and it makes your next basic attack strike deal 150% increased damage and restore mana. So this is a huge nuke that's free to cast and gives you mana, and you already know that you have healing with Death Coil. So I'm just going to go back and break down the talents I chose to show you the synergy. This is not a build that you'll find on Heroes Fire. This is not a build you'll almost intuitively get right off the bat. So this is, I feel, a slightly unique build of Arthas that has served me very well. So the first choice in Tier 1 that I choose almost all the time is Eternal Hunger. It restores the mana, it increases mana restoration from Frostmourne Hungers by 30%, so up to 60%. So he has a base mana of 500 or something, and it doesn't really increase throughout the game much. So going from 30 to 60 is huge for Arthas. So as you can see, let me reset the levels here. Death Quill costs 50 at rank 1. And if you spec into Eternal Hunger, it goes from your Frostborn Hungers restores 60 mana. So you gain more mana than you use when healing yourself. So if you stay out there on the field long enough using your abilities on cooldown, you're going to be at a net gain in terms of your health and mana. So very good to keep in mind. Try it out. I think it's way better than Howling Blast, because when you use Howling Blast, you're going to be running out of mana a lot and going back to base to refill, and that's just not uptime on the battlefield. So you want to carry games on your back, you got to be on the battlefield as much as possible for every skirmish, for every encounter, for every mechanic of the map, etc. So moving on to Tier 2, I choose Destruction, increases the damage boost from Frostborn Hungers. You need this reach as Arthas, let me tell you. He doesn't have that much burst damage, and with this you can burst even harder. So choose this talent. Most people choose Frozen Waste because it reduces the mana cost of their E. Not worth it in my opinion. Frostborn Hunger is an excellent trait, and it makes Arthas. So try this out. Destruction. Moving on to Tier 3. Should probably actually choose that, huh? So moving on to Tier 3. This is a pretty standard pick here. I picked Rune Tap, and it's every third basic attack heals you for 3% of your total health. So I'll show you what it looks like here. If I just start attacking this fellow Arthas here, you see, you're gonna see a little red thing above my head here. I might have to take damage first, actually, yeah. But let me see if it'll pop up. Anyway, you'll get a little red symbol. It looks like this symbol here above your head. It'll just make sure it'll show you that you're healing, and this allows Arthas to even more efficiently clear camps and even solo bosses. Like, he can be an absolute monster and dominate every aspect of the game. He's not really weak in any one aspect in my mind. So Army of the Dead here, I'm going to activate it for you to show you how it works. Look at these badass ghouls here surrounding their Lich King. They do great damage, they don't last very long, so you kind of sometimes want to just spam this on cooldown to get the healing and to get the value right away. As you can see, they're already almost gone. So that's how his ult works. And so let's move on to the next talent here. So the Tier 5 talent I choose is almost always 99% Trail of Frost. And what Trail of Frost does is it makes your Howling Blast impact enemies all along the path before it reaches its destination. So if I use it over here, they'll get frozen, and every enemy in between will also get frozen. So this allows you to root their entire team and set up for great positional advantages for your team. It's a very impactful spell that the other team has to play around a lot. So just choose that, guys. Moving on to the Tier 6 here.
Choose a talent.
Move on here. I'm just going to get them up to rank 20 here. So Tier 6, I choose Stone Skin. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's a 60-second cooldown that gives you 30% of your maximum health as a shield for 5 seconds. Don't use this before you go into combat. Use this once you start taking a ton of damage. That's how you get great value from it. It's a very strong skill. The rank 20 skill that I choose is Hardened Shield most of the time. I guess it's important to note too, going back to the Tier 6 here. If you need the damage, and let's say your noob teammates chose like 3 warriors or whatever, you need the damage. The next option is Frostmourne Feeds, and it makes your trait apply to 2 basic attacks and gives you more damage, especially combined with the damage bonus traits we got earlier. So Stone Skin first choice, Frostmourne Feeds second choice. The final talent I choose is mainly Hardened Shield. You activate it to gain a shield, and it reduces damage taken by 75% for 4 seconds. And more often than not, I don't use these skills together. I don't just hit QW and get this huge thing going, unless it's a very desperate scenario. I try and space them out so I can have multiple cooldowns for multiple engagements, because you almost have this unfair advantage you can leverage as Arthas. Like, you can really 1v1 so many people. It's incredible. So that's really it for this video. This is just a really down and dirty guide for Arthas. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm going to get into some games soon so I can show you him in action in Hero League. And that's all. Thanks again. James from eSports Hero signing out.